Today we're going to be talking about the Lord's Prayer and why you should not, that's right, you heard me, why you should not be saying that Lord's Prayer. The first time I remember teaching this, when I said it in the room, you could feel the atmosphere change, and this one lady in particular who was sitting sort of up front where I could really, me and her, we were right in front of each other. And I remember she looked at me and she reared back in her chair. She folded her hands like this, like, what you fixing to say against the Lord's Prayer? I'm ready for whatever you gonna say against her. I'm not, she was totally shut down and hostile because of what I had said about the Lord's Prayer. And so, that's sort of like one of those sacred cows or traditions that people hold, that when you touch them, you just better get ready because they coming for you, right? And so I'm ready today. I'm ready. Get Up Power, the podcast. This is Get Up Power. I am Renata Jamel, and you are welcome to Get Up Power. However you are listening or watching, you are welcome. I had that dreaded thing happen that those of you who do these videos, you've experienced it. You get through the whole video and man, you are cooking. I mean, you cooking. And so I get all the way to the end. When I say don't say that Lord's Prayer, what I am telling you, if you were raised anyway, like I was, you were raised on that Lord's Prayer, saying it, memorizing it, rehearsing it, spitting it back verbatim. That's how we were raised as kids, saying our prayers. That's the way we were taught. And I thank God for God-fearing parents. And that is a good place to start with your kids in giving them a reverence for God, helping them to know that there is a God and that we can communicate with him. But if you stop right there, you will never move into what Jesus was really endeavoring to get across to his followers when he taught them how to do the Lord's Prayer. Did you hear me what I said just there? The Lord's Prayer is something that we do, not just something that we say. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. How to move from just saying the Lord's Prayer. Move from the vain tradition of just saying memorized prayers into a dynamic, living, organic relationship with God where you communicate. That's what prayer is. Where we communicate with God in a way in which it allows him to become divinely active in our lives, according to the things that Jesus highlighted in that Our Father prayer. We can begin to partner with him for divine intervention, releasing the raising up power of God into the world around us. Not just our own personal life, but into the world around us. Of course, our main source text is going to be the Holy Bible, right? But we're going to use this book, Action Prayer. There's links in the description below of how you can get a copy. There is also a checklist, Action Prayer checklist, right? Oh my goodness. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's much better. Me. Oh, Lord. Y'all don't want me to sing. But I was talking about the checklist. As I was writing the outline for the checklist, I just kept getting so much more insight that I couldn't fit it all in the checklist. And so what ended up happening was this prayer guide. I ended up writing this. And so it really is a guide to help you to stay on track with your prayers and to help you to be more effective in terms of your intimacy with God and in terms of getting action, results, answers from your prayers, right? And so it brought me from a place of just saying what I had memorized years ago as a child and just saying that as sort of a vain tradition. It brought me from there to now be able to do the Lord's Prayer, to communicate in a way with the living God that is on a higher level of communication. To have that kind of relationship with him, where my prayers begin to flow from the Holy Spirit as he's leading and guiding me in my prayers, and as I'm following the outline that Jesus highlighted for us in communicating with God. You know, there are things that are to God more important. He knows what's going to be effective for us, the things that we need to remember to make sure that we do, right? It's something that you do, the Lord's Prayer. I'm going to be teaching on that in the weeks to come. But now, right now, here today, I am talking to you about the Lord's Prayer and about how it has become a vain tradition in the Christian faith, that people just use it and just say it like rote memorization, and it's not with the dynamic purpose or effectiveness that I believe that Jesus meant for it to be used. When he highlighted that prayer, if you remember, go back and read that in Matthew. Let me give you the reference for sure. It's Matthew 6, verses 9 through 13. That's where he gives us a prayer. But also within that chapter, Jesus is warning. He's warning his disciples against the very thing that they made this prayer into. Is against vain traditions, saying a whole lot of words that does not have effect. And it makes you look good to other people. They think, oh, how wonderful, she's saying the Lord's Prayer. He's saying he's learned the Lord's Prayer. But how effective is that? And how do we know when something has become a vain tradition? Because not all traditions are vain or useless. But in determining whether or not it has become that, then we go back and we look and we see, well, now, what was it originally intended to do? Well, what's the original purpose for praying? Praying is communicating with God, right? Is to connect with him and then to maintain a communication, a communion with him. And if the prayer is not doing that, if it doesn't accomplish that purpose, then it has become a vain and useless, ineffective tradition. And you at that point just have a form of godliness. In other words, you look good. Others may be impressed by how well you do it. But the original purpose for doing it is not being accomplished. It's that kind of a thing where you have a form of godliness, but there is no power, right? The very thing that you're doing denies the power, is an obstruction to the power of God actually being released. Because Jesus is the power source. And if we are communicating with him in a way that's just not effective, not connecting, it's vain. It's useless. If I picked up my landline phone right now and tried to call anybody, it would not work. Why? Because I had the landline disconnected a few years back. It's been cut, the line. There is no connection that can happen. If you want to really connect with God effectively, you have to have a live line connection. And Jesus, in highlighting this Lord's Prayer, is showing you how to have that kind of connection with God. And so that is what I am saying today. Saying the Lord's Prayer just as a religious tradition, that's a dead connection. Just saying what you memorize, it's an empty, useless, vain tradition. It's not really connecting with God. If you don't follow that with spirit, truth, connection, seeking and searching for God as he's seeking and searching for you in a spirit and truth worship, that is your live connection in order to be able to communicate with God, right? Jesus said to the woman at the well, you all remember that story over in John. Jesus said to the woman at the well, Samaritan woman, she was talking to him about worshiping God. And she was like, I know we don't have the same kind of relationship or connection to God that you Jews do. And so Jesus was like, stop right there. I'm telling you right now, woman, that God is looking for people who can worship him in spirit and in truth. And those are the people that God is searching and seeking for. Jesus said God is a spirit. We are made in his image, right? We're made in the image of God. So what does that mean? We are spirit beings in a spirit and truth live connection with the living God as those who have been created in his image. Yes. And that is the key to your live connection right there. Right? That's going to be a wrap for today. We're going to pick it up next time, right here on Get Up Power, where we're going to be talking about that spirit and truth connection, that worship that Jesus was talking about. How do we do that? The spirit and truth thing, divine connection of spirit and truth. So before I end, I want to remind you again, get your checklists, right? It's free. The link is below. Download it, print it out, and you can laminate yours like I laminated mine, but it'll look just like this. There's a front and there's a back. Also, get your prayer guide. This is your workbook because God's going to be communicating with you, and you want to be able to keep track of that. And so I've got pages in here like this so that you can write down as we are learning these 7 actions of prayer. You can write down what God is saying to you and keep track of that and keep a journal of that, right? So until next time, Raising Up Power people, let's get up, get out, and lift up Jesus with his raising up power.